If you're a beginner who is struggling to get the hang of learning to crochet, hopefully what I'm going to show you, I'm going to teach you in this video, and what you're hopefully going to learn may help with that. One of the things that beginners struggle with the most, and it's a barrier to get any further, and I know this from teaching crochet classes, is crocheting into a chain. Every single pattern that works in the flat, every tutorial that's teaching you in the flat, working in the flat, will start off by telling you to chain X amount and then go back and put a single crochet in each of those chains, or a half double, or whatever. It was a massive barrier for me when I started, and until I found out what I'm going to show you today, I avoid that like the plague. And actually, the technique I'm going to show you today, I replace crocheting into a chain for any pattern working in the flat. I will do what is called a foundation stitch. So this is a stitch sample. I use it to teach crochet. I would suggest, if you're starting out as a beginner, before you go and make plushies or granny squares or anything else you've got your eye on, all those wonderful patterns out there, I would do one of these for yourself first. You need to know how the stitches go together, what they look like, how to recognize them. I have got another video on that as well. This is started with a foundation single crochet, and that's this row right at the bottom. It does have a slightly different finish to crocheting into the chain, but it is so much easier. And if you are struggling to start crocheting, it might be this crocheting into a chain that you're having difficulties with. So let's get started. So what you need to start off with is a slip knot. So a slip knot is the way you start any working in the flat. Best way to do a slip knot, I take the end of the yarn around 2 fingers, reasonably long tail. I place my thumb to hold that loop together, and then I flip it over and pull tight like that. Okay, now that wasn't the best slip knot in the world. I will do another video on how to do a slip knot specifically. I have done so many of these now, I do them so fast, doing them slowly is a bit strange. Okay, so if you were struggling with that and you didn't follow my slip knot, please, or let me know, excuse me, let me know, and I will make sure I do another video on how to do a slip knot if you are a full beginner. Okay, so we're going to do foundation stitches. We're going to do single crochet foundation stitches because they're the easiest. You can do this with half double crochets, you can do this with double crochets. Oh yeah, a note, as always, I'm going to be using US terms for the stitches rather than the UK terms. Most patterns you will find are in US terms, but if you're in the UK and you buy a crochet magazine from a supermarket, be super careful because they tend to be in UK abbreviations and terms rather than the US terms. In the UK, a single crochet is called a double crochet, and I'll talk about that in another video as well. So you can start off with your foundation stitches. You're going to yarn over and you're going to form a chain, yarn over again, pull through to form another chain. So you've now got 2 chains on your hook. What you're going to do next is you're going to take your hook and you're going to go back through. So when you've got your chain, each stitch, each chain is a little V, 1 and then 2. So we've got 1 first chain and then second chain, and that chain is also called the first chain from your hook, so you count backwards from there. We're going to take your hook and we're going to go back through that little V. Okay, so we're going to go through that chain and we're going to yarn over and we're going to bring up a loop. Now normally if you were doing just a single crochet at this point, you'd yarn over again and you'd pull it back through these 2 loops. But wait, do something else first, because what we're going to do with this foundation stitch is actually build the chain at the same time as we build our first row of stitches for our work. So we're going to go yarn over, but we're not going to come all the way through back through these 2 loops. We're just going through 1, okay, and then stop, So what we've done here is this loop here is forming part of our chain. Okay, so we're going to be building a chain. So we're doing this with single crochets. It's at this point where you can use, depending on whether you put yarn over your hook first, etc., you can do HDC or DC, so half double crochets or double crochets. But what we're going to do today is I'm just doing single crochets. So yarn over again. This time go through both loops to finish our single crochet. And if I turn it this way, you can see that there are the posts of our stitch, and there at the top is the very first V, so that's our very first foundation single crochet. So to continue, it's the same thing over again, but this time we haven't got a chain to work into. We're going to do that for the first stitch. This time we're going to work into this loop here. It's a bit longer than the other loops, you can see, and it's this one down the bottom. Now it's up to you what you do at this point. You can either just go through that loop, or you can go through two. It changes the finish. When I'm making my gloves, I go through both because I take the flat work and I twist it back up and join it together like a tube. So going through both gives me a nicer second edge to join to. If you're working on a blanket, just go through that one loop, and that's what we'll do today. So next step, again, take your hook. You're going to go, as I said before, through that loop here. Okay, I'll just show you that again. So we're going to go through this loop here. We're going to do yarn over. We're going to pull through. We're going to pick up our yarn again, so yarn over, and we're going to pull it only through the first loop. So that is us making our chain. Okay, so therefore we've made our chain. Pick up the yarn again, yarn over, pull through both loops, and that is your second single crochet. So again there you can see it's a V there and a V there. That's our two crochets, two single crochets. And when you do your next row, so when you continue with your work, it's through here, through there, that you're going to be putting your next row of stitches. So you can just continue on like this, through the loop, pull it over once, okay, then you're going to pull it over again. So I've done a few more. You just keep going in the same vein, so you've got as many single crochets as the pattern requires. If you're working with a pattern that gives you a number to chain and then tells you to go back along and fill that in, so crochet a certain number of single crochets into that chain, the number of these stitches you want isn't the number of the chain, it's the number of the single crochets, or whatever the first stitch is in the first row. That's how many of these you want to do, because when you're told a number of to chain, it will actually give you a couple extra for what will become a turning chain. If you're not sure what that is at this moment, don't worry about it. But if you're working on, say, a blanket project, you've got the pattern and you want to use the foundation stitch instead of chaining into crocheting into a foundation chain, you want the number of stitches in the first row. So just once again before we finish, so this is to continue on, because sometimes if you're like me, I get halfway through a row of crochet and forget what I'm doing and put it away. Or if you've got kids, so obviously we all have real lives, how much we'd like to just crochet forever and all the time. If you need to put your work down, you come back, you're not sure what you're doing. So halfway through a chain, I find that bottom bigger loop, I put my hook through that bottom bigger loop, I yarn over, pick up my stitch, pick up a loop, I then do it again. Don't pull all the way through because I'm making a chain. Then I'll finish the stitch off to make a single crochet. When you get to the end, what you'll want to do, when you've done enough for your project, for your pattern, you finish your last one, and then whatever the next row is required, so let's say if the next row is double crochets, that's when you do your turning chain. So double crochets, depending on your tension, it's usually two or three. My tension can usually be quite high. So then you turn and you carry on from there. So hopefully, if you are struggling to learn how to crochet and you're a beginner and you're a bit lost and you keep not being able to crochet into a chain, try the foundation stitch instead. Subscribe for more crochet tips, and I'll see you next time. Bye.